All right, here we go. You guys are in for another treat. Now, I just want to say this guy, whoa, like it's some heady space we're getting into here, but it's also grounded and deep, even though in it, he sort of talks about how grounding can be a challenge for him, which was really beautiful to see him acknowledge that that's where his challenges are. Anyway, Dr. Salas is a rich source. And he's also from the south of France. So put your cone head hat on and listen closely and, take your time to get the things he's saying. Cause there's a little bit of a language thing. Maybe turn on, captions if you need to, because what's in here is so rich. And he puts me particularly, but us on the spot later in the show. And that is definitely fun, especially for Greg. He likes to see me squirm.
Love it. And I just want to say that cultural reference of the southern France was pure genius, Mark. Well done. So
I'm part conehead.
Subscribe and give us 5 stars because you love us, and support Blast Compton Cowboys. Enjoy this ride and drink Adrenochrome Cola.
Refreshingly elite.
Sis, hallo?
Blijven.
Bestuur zeker wegen dem.
Joh je iets niet, joh.
Two outlaws on the lam, taking the back roads through America.
You can't drink enough coffee for this show.
And now it's time for Monday Madness with the Moped Outlaws, Greg and Mark.
And we're live with another episode of Moped Outlaws. And today we're riding with Dr. Alan Salas, who is a chiropractor. And you shared some trauma from your childhood and your father. And it sounds like that was a pivotal element in your life where you thought, that is not the road I want to walk down. Oh, wait, no, you were married and very successful. And you were on the same road, a similar road. You thought, okay, something is wrong here. Am I correct in my assessment?
Yeah, well, like for everything in life, we always have problems, right? We have to deal with that. But is there one sure that we're guaranteed in life you're going to have problem to deal with, right? And you're going to have setback, you're going to have all those challenges, right? And so all my life, I just wanted to find a solution for my problem, right? And so if your problem are coming from your environment, of course it is, right? Because we can all program, and I'm sure we're going to talk about that. But yeah, it's basically, I'm a doctor, but like as a common human being, I want to find a problem. I want to find a solution for my problem, and I want my life to be smooth, right? Easy and loving and happy, right? Don't you guys?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
absolutely.
You're keeping problem in the singular state. So is there an ultimate problem that you've become aware of that in solving this singular problem, really all solutions fall into place?
Yeah, the things, and the way I believe in something is called the cause and effect, right? So for every cause, there's an effect, for cause and consequences. I say that to my son, 8 years old son, but cause and effect, right? So for every cause, there's an effect, and for every effect, there's a cause. Also, I believe that, we all, like we say, we all have problems or challenges or challenge, right? And you need to know 2 things in order to permanently, capital letter, resolve our problem. So what are they? Well, number one, you need to find what's causing your problem, right? I mean, Greg, if you don't know what's causing your problem, how can you solve it, right? And number 2, you need to know how to fix it. So for any problem, if you know what's causing your problem, you know how to fix it, there's no more problem. You don't even think about your problem. You can move on with life, right? And so this, seems to be very simple things, right? But you'd be surprised when you connect to that and you adapt that into your life. And always you ask that question, right? Is it really the root cause of my problem? And that's how I was able to to find out what it was.
So I want to get to know you a little bit better,
Sure.
Alan. Where are you in the world?
So I've got a little bit of an accent, right? So I was born and raised in south of France, right? But I live in Kansas City, Missouri, USA. I've been there since 1993.
And how long were you in France in your life? How long before you moved to the United States?
Oh, well, from age 0 to, I believe, 30 or 31 years old. Yeah.
And that must have been quite a transition. What brought you here?
Well, I mean, it's even talking about the transition, right? It's like a transformation, should I say? Because I used to live on my sailboat in south of France, right?
Oh, wow.
Kind of, minding my own business, right? Party all the time. I was young. I used to also rent boat in south of France. So I started my own entrepreneurship, if I can say. I was like 21, 22 years old. I was pretty young, right? And so I was working only like 6-7 months a year, right? And the rest of the time, either I was sailing with my boat, and when the weather got too nasty for sailing, I will buy a airfare ticket and go to the South Hemisphere. So basically, Mark, I was a sun/party chaser.
That sounds fun. A lot of people would be very happy to live that lifestyle. What are the things that you found about yourself while you were doing that?
Well, I figured out why I was doing it, right? Because for me, it was about freedom, right? There's a freedom has always been very important. And the main reason is like when Greg mentioned a little bit at the intro, my dad was a very controlling person, right? And very negative, which actually make him sick, right? And at 40 years old, he got sick. He was literally puking life, right? I mean, every time he was eating, he was like vomiting. And so that's why I just wanted to break free, right, from that environment. And so, of course, the symbol of freedom, it's a boat, right? I mean, you need only nature. You've got the sail, you go with nature and things like that. So I think really deep into my subconscious mind, which I'm sure we're going to talk about that. Basically, that was the program that I had. I wanted to be free, right? And so I thought, I was young, right? They used to call me the gypsy. I used to have long hair and earring, all that. And it's a gypsy area in south of France. Actually, I don't know if you know the Gypsy Kings. It's a band.
And they're amazing.
They are from south of France. They are not even Spanish, although they speak Spanish, right? They are from Arles, which I was like 20 minutes away from, right? And so basically, yes, that's what... That's why, the freedom and adventure was the synonym of freedom, right? Adventure and freedom was the same thing. So that's why I was leading this kind of life. And to be honest with you, what happened is like when I was seeing all my family, they all have like a life that preconditioned life, right? Meaning that, we know what's going to happen. They're going to do that. They're going to marry it. I've been married. I've got no problem with that. But they will stay in their hometown. They will have the same job. And when I look at this, I say, heck no, this is not for me. I want more adventure. I want to live my dreams, right? And I really think that people who are, I feel kind of sorry for them if you have no dreams, right? Because if you have no dreams, what are you going to do, right? And so I had that zest of life, that free spirit, if you want. But I think it was a part of my personality too, thanks God.
So as you were moving through this part of your life where you were really chasing the sun and being very free in your boat, and there comes a moment where something shifts and you end up in America and you end up going to medical school to become a chiropractor. What happened that had you shift your path like that?
Well, I had it has to be something drastic, right?
Well, I don't know.
This kind of life. And so I had a calling actually, Mark, and I saw myself as helping people. Right. And so here's the thing in my family, you have to understand there's no medical doctor, no nurse, there's no massage therapist, no healing things. Right. I mean, and so I just didn't know what to do. Right. But when you know that there's no doubt. Right. You just have to do it. Right. Or try doing it. And so I started to ask my clients. Right. And say, talking about, that I've been inspired, and I would like to do this and that. And so I remember, I will always remember anyway, like one of my clients say, you know what, Alan, there's a Chinese doctor, he's French, his name is Philip. He's going to come to town. Would you like to speak to him? I say, heck yes, I would love to speak to him. And, I talked to him and he told me, you know what, why don't you read those 3 books? Right? They were like philosophical book. One of the book was called the Tao Te Ching, which pretty deep philosophical Chinese book. The other one was the Hara, Hara, which is a philosophical book, Japanese, right? Hara is the center of gravity of a human being. And the other one was The Man Between the Sky and the Earth, which is basically an acupuncture book, right? And so, sure enough, I went to see him after I was done with the season, and I started to inquire about Chinese medicine. And he told me, well, if you really want to know what you're doing, you need to go to China, you need to learn Chinese, spend 10 years there. I said, hold on, I'm 30 years old. I want to practice one day, right? I mean, you have to understand how that intense desire, like yesterday will have been the day that I wanted to help people. And he looked at me and said, you know what, Alan, you look strong. Why not chiropractic? And I said, what's this? And he gave me some information, about some people who went from France to America to study. And when I got the information from the school, what was really intriguing to me, by the way, I had that translated by a friend of mine who was an English teacher, right? That's how good my English was. And we talk about the innate intelligence, your own ability to heal yourself. And that was fascinating to me. And so to make a long story short, I sold my boat, I sold my business and went to America to study this.
All right.
What part of America did you study?
I ended up first in South Carolina, Spartanburg, and they sent me for prerequisite in Kansas City, and I met my French future wife in a bar. So I decided to anchor there, if I can say that.
And was that about 10 years ago?
Ooh, yeah. Well, time. I've been doing this for, I think it's 29 years now.
Wow.
I know.
And you have your old boy.
Yeah, but again, I've been blessed with a young spirit, right? To me, become an adult, it's like retiring, right? Why do you want to retire? Right now, you're useless. You don't want to do your passion. And I guess I'm lucky when you know your purpose and your mission in life, you cannot retire. It just seems like, what are you doing, man? So yeah, there's some things that when you have been blessed to know what you are wired to do and you have been blessed with that, you just cannot help it to, it's not really working. Of course, there's, pro and cons of everything you're doing, but it's so much easier to deal with the cons when you're passionate about what you do, which is my case, obviously.
So can you say a little bit more about the innate intelligence of the body?
Yeah, well, that was my first question, right? Because I remember we were all lined up in chiropractic school and we say, oh, yeah, we believe in the innate intelligence, but really, that's such a good question, Mark, what it is. So our own ability to heal yourself. So you can take, for example, if I cut myself, right, I'm not going to have to think, oh, I need to bring like some white blood cells. I need to have all those automatic bodily process, but to me, so much more now, because creating and discovering that man clearing, for me, the innate intelligence, it's how we are wired, right? And so, how our mind is wired, our body are wired, and how they can, finding what's causing your problem and knowing how to fix it, giving some little help and little bit clue, hey, this needs to be fixed, how amazing our body can adapt and heal so quickly. You see, there's a misunderstanding that, when you've got, for example, long-term pain and stress, right? You have been sick for a long time, but it's going to take a long time to heal. I say, heck no, because the body can adapt, and the innate ability to heal himself, if you know how to kicking in, you'll be amazed how fast you can heal from anything.
So I'm curious about your understanding and whether you can explain the vagus nerve and its role in healing and the rest and restorative state versus the stressed and activated state. Is that something you can speak to?
Oh yeah, of course. So again, like when you truly want to be a holistic practitioner, right? Because everybody's through that word holistic, right? But let me tell you the way I see it, right? And so you've got potentially exposed to physical stress, right? To chemical stress that we call it inflammation, right? And also mental and emotional stress. For all of those stress, you need not only to find what's causing the problem on that, but also you need to know how to fix it the best you can. And so I created a technique for the physical stress, right? And after for the obviously emotional and mental stress, which is mind clearing. And I found somewhere, for example, for the inflammation, I'd figure out that if you supercharge the body with oxygen, and again, it doesn't have to cost a lot, it's a mixture I created, you'll be amazed how, your body can detox, how all the, what I call the bugs, the infectious agent can die really, and you can affect it like very quickly, right? And so talking about the vagus nerve, when I started to treat people, Mark, regular chiropractic, although it was not truly regular with me, but anyway, so because I was involved with some techniques that were even forbidden to do in school, in clinic, and I was still doing it because I had good results, behind the scene. I will tell my patients, shh, don't tell anybody, right? Anyway, so I started to treat people and they will get better, but very soon they will plateau, right? And just to maintain that plateau, they will have to come to see me. So I thought there was something. Remember, number one, you need to find what's causing it. So maybe, chiropractic was not really going towards to all the cause of a problem, obviously. And also the way to fix it was not maybe the better way. And so when I realized that with chiropractic, we deal with only 20% of our nervous system, meaning like the nerve that exit from the side of your spine, right, and go everywhere in your body. It's called the peripheral nervous system. But it's only 20%. And so I say, why not doing 100%, right? And so the other 80% is called the central nervous system. And the central nervous system is made of your brain and the spinal cord. And there's lots of confusion with that because I started to do cranial work, right? And so cranial work can, let's pretend mechanically, right? Let's pretend those cranial bones have been moved, right? Which, has been proven when they are alive, they can be moved and can put pressure via the meningeal system to your brain, right?
Wait, what bone? What bone?
Cranial bones.
Cranial, skull bone, skull.
I thought that was one solid bone.
We've got 22 cranial bone. Yeah, 22 cranial bone. And one that is very important is called the sphenoid bone, that is the central bone of your skull. And when it looks like a butterfly, like a monarch, right? And you've got greater wings, lesser wing. When you can move that bone, what happens, you can move remaining 21 bone in the skull and realign your head to the spine. Okay. Right, and so you can with this correct scoliosis, which is lateral deviation of a spine or a hunchback, can come back, right, just by realigning this bone. But one of the nerves, you've got 12 cranial nerves, and one of the nerves that Mark is inquiring is called the vagus nerve, and the vagus nerve is so important because it controls all the automatic things in your body, right, and connect all your organs together, right? And so it's called the autonomic nervous system. They could have called it, quite frankly, the automatic nervous system, right? And so that's the way the word I will have used. And so by releasing that nerve, amazing thing happen, right? And so it's kind of the master cranial nerve in your body. And I truly believe, like intuitively, because there's no research probably have been done with that, but since the subconscious mind also, the subconscious mind control all the automatic process in your body, right? All the things you don't have to think, your breathing, your heartbeat, your digestion is like automatic, right? And I think the subconscious mind, is the vagus nerve is the physical connection to our subconscious mind.
So
I know it's a long story for such a short answer, but I just want you to understand, what I'm talking about.
So is meditation a part of your daily practice?
Yes, because, again, I found out, okay, the outside world was the adventure, right? And I thought like the freedom was coming from the outside, right? And after being like a mind-body expert, I truly understood that actually true healings come from within out, right? And so I just wanted to find out, okay, what's the freedom has to come from within, right? Not from the outside. That's illusory. That's what you have been told, right? If you want to be happy, you buy this, and you'll be happy. And we know it doesn't work, right? I mean, we all have been trying this, right? But happiness is very short-lived, Like for example, if you buy your dream car, right? As soon as you put the keys in and turn that's the best emotional high you're going to have, right? The best happiness you're going to have, and after it's going to go down the drain. So for everybody's talking about sustainability, right? For sustain happiness, it has to come from within. So the meditation is one of the way to do that. I used to do 3 hours a day, but the problem, I was totally ungrounded, right? And so it's like you go somewhere, but you cannot bring the wisdom down to the physical, which is very important to me, right? And so now I do 1 hour every morning, yes.
And you said that the vagus nerve is, you believe from your experience, a connection to the unconscious or the subconscious.
Subconscious, yeah. Mm-hmm. So, because they target the same thing. The subconscious mind control, all the automatic aspect of your, again, your breathing and all that. And the vagus nerve physically, that's connected to that, right?
And isn't part of meditation bringing consciousness to the areas that are currently subconscious or unconscious?
I will say for me, meditation is it's basically, you have to be careful with what we're using now, because meditation, there's so many things that, so what I will call is like closing my eyes, right? When I close my eyes and I go to places that were not accessible to me before. Right. And so I think those part of places are relate more to the subconscious mind. Right. And so like a higher self, some people will describe that, or just to have like to be in another universe when actually time doesn't exist, where, everybody's talking about enlightenment. I'm not saying I'm enlightened, obviously. Right. But to me, it's more darkness. Right. It's just like there's nothing. Right, the nothingness. And when you bath into that nothingness, or what we call awareness, or God, or whatever belief you have about it, well, you just, miracle happen in a way that you feel so much relaxed. I feel it in my body. I'm like, my body is melting down, right? That's another maybe premise for my conclusion, right? And about the vagus nerve. And emotionally, I'm much more stable, right? It's much easier. Life becomes so much easier. That's my experience.
So part of what I'm hearing is there's a very ethereal experience that's beyond biology. And then your work is bringing that into the physiology and biology of individuals.
Well, the mind clearing technique has nothing to do with meditation. So meditation is something that I do because there's different ways that we can have access to our higher self, right? And so meditation is one of them. And mind clearing is more like a free step, that will reprogram your mind, right? And so I'm sure you're going to have questions about that. What do you mean? We have been programmed? Yes, you have been programmed, Mark. Yes, Greg, you have been programmed. Yes, I've been programmed. Yes, everybody listening to that program has been programmed and still can be programmed anytime.
So let's talk about that for a second, right? Because so often when we start to talk about the mind, in the modern age, we tend to want to have the metaphor of the computer as the thing that we use, but it's not really that analogous. They're not the same. But in this case, the neurology of quote programming, as you're talking about it, is that the way that the brain, through repetitive input, begins to retain structural things, and we form beliefs around the way that we, have neurological impacts in our lives. And so I would love if you would sort of talk about the steps of the mind clearing process and what, quote, reprogramming looks like in that.
Well, I would love to, but we have to rewind a little bit, right? I mean, I have to give you like the full picture, because I like people to understand really. So what is the mind, right? Basically, what is the mind? Because we talk about, we use mind for everything, but it can, you've got like two minds in a way, right? It's like you live in two different worlds at the same time. Mm-hmm. And so that's why, people are getting confused. So we've got the outer world, right? And the outer world is basically what you perceive, right? How you perceive your reality, right? What you are aware of. Your self-identity, your personality is basically your thought, your emotion, your behavior and action, right? That's called the conscious mind. And after we've got the subconscious mind, we can call it unconscious, but I want to keep it very simple because it doesn't have to be complicated. So we call that the subconscious mind. And the job of a subconscious mind is basically to record everything you have been doing in your life, Mark and Greg. Everything has been recorded there, right? And also, like I said before, like all the automatic process in your body are coming from your subconscious mind, right? All your skills are stored in your subconscious mind, right? So when I started to research, the mind, I was very intrigued by that subconscious mind. I said, what the heck this is about? And I started to dig. And when I found out, it's basically that, your conscious mind processes data at 11 bits per second, right? Your subconscious mind processes data at 11 million bits per second. It means that right now, like we have in an interaction, right? My conscious mind gets 11 bits per second of information that we have in exchange, right? But behind the scene, 11 million times more powerful, our subconscious mind gets so much more information, right? So I said, damn, that's really powerful, that subconscious mind. And after the next things that I want to tell your audience, because it's so important, really blew me away and made me rethink what I knew about myself. Who am I? Those big questions that we ask ourselves. And so basically it's this. Your conscious mind is 5 or 10% of your mind. Your subconscious mind is 90 to 95% of your mind, depends who you're reading. Meanings, when you want to heal, transform yourself, and grow as an individual, what we focus on? Only our conscious mind. So it means we are using only 5 or 10% of our mind power. So I thought to myself, hey, you know what, guys? Why not bring the subconscious mind to the party, right? We'll have to be pretty powerful, right? And that's really what the mind clearing is about. Bring the subconscious conscious in a way. Like that you can be healed. And this is definitely going towards the causes of your problem, because the way I said that we have been programmed, right? Those programs are stored in your subconscious. Mm-hmm. And they control your present and mold your future.
Yeah. Understood. I have a lot of insight and I totally resonate with this. So in the mind clearing process that you do, and you're working with the subconscious, there's all these things that are not our conscious beliefs, but our subconscious beliefs that we've structured our lives around, right? How does the mind clearing process work with shifting our subconscious beliefs? Let me
give you an example. I'm sorry, I don't understand. I don't answer straight to your question.
No, don't be sorry. It's just a question. That's the idea, is to have to feel and see and hear what it is that you're bringing. So please,
awesome.
By all means.
Awesome. So let's bring an example to the table here. Okay, so let's pretend there's a little girl, right? Let's see her dad is a drunk, coming back home drunk every night, beat up the mom. What do you think, guys, that little girl is going to attract as a romantic relationship when she's a grown woman? What kind of relationship?
The obvious one is she's going to attract an abusive person.
Yeah, and 80 to 90% of people will agree with us. Now, let me, which I agree, right? But let me make two comments about that. If I ask that woman now, right, that she's in that relationship, if I ask her, do you enjoy to get beat up like your mom? She's going to say, heck no. So the conscious mind, remember, the self-identity is going to say no, but the subconscious mind has been programmed as men are predators and women are prey. So who's winning, right? Who's dictating whom, right? Now, there's one more comment that I want to make. How she's going to attract that guy. She's going to say, can you come and beat me up? Right? That's not going to happen that way. So my conclusion is like our subconscious mind, Mark, are connected to each other. That's why we say we are all one in a way. Doesn't mean that we have to love everybody, of course not. But we are all connected. And here's the way it's going to happen. So I'm the woman's subconscious mind. I'm going to whisper to her conscious mind, hey, look at this guy. He's got the program as a predator. He has been bullied. Now he's a bully. So that's going to do the trick, right? And so you're going to be attracted to him and fall in love with him. Now, the subconscious mind of this guy is going to say, look, she's a prey, right? She has been programmed as, to attract somebody like me, right? Perfect match. So you're going to fall in love with her. And like we say, it takes two to tango, right? So they're going to attract each other, fall in love. 3 different case scenarios to answer your question. Case scenario number 1. She's gonna marry the guy, get stuck in that relationship for the rest of her life, right? We all know relationship like that, or have heard about relationship like that, and we say, why she's still with this guy, right? Because of the programming. That's the reason why, right? That's why she cannot get out of it, right? Number 2. She may get with a guy and get tired of it, right? To get beat up, right? And so she's going to attract another guy that's abusive, maybe with a twist, a little bit different, right? And after, usually when they start to understand what's happening, it's kind of like, there's a fire. I put my finger in the fire, I got burned once. I put my finger again, I got burned twice. I say, hold on, that hurts. I'm done with this, right? And what this woman would tell me, I'm done with men. Dr. Salas, don't talk to me about men. I'm done. They're not good for me, right? But that's not true healing, although it's first an awareness, right? True healing will be what? That she's going to attract somebody that's totally the opposite, somebody that is totally different, that somebody that is kind to her, that respects her, that see her as an equal. That's how because we can heal from our life experiences, of course. But look at all the suffering. Maybe she's got 1 or 2 kids along the way, right? Or case scenario number 3, she can come and have this program deleted, right? Like that, we're done with that. So the 3 step of a mind clearing is it's kind of like when you've got a program in your computer, it doesn't work for you any longer, right? It's not as performant. What you're going to do, you're going to delete, you're going to download a new program, you're going to go to the Play Store, download a program that is better for you, right? And on the screen of life, what you're going to see, you're going to love the outcome, right? That's exactly the 3 steps. So 1, we delete what you don't want to make it very, general. 2, we download what you want, right? And number 3, you want to make sure that you're going to create that into your life. It's going to show up in your screen of life, that you're going to manifest that. Otherwise, it's a fantasy in your head, and who cares about that, right? We want to make sure that, because we learn from the physical, right? We learn from, what's the lesson I've learned in our life from what we do, right? If you don't act on anything, let's see if I say, oh, you know what? I want to start a business, right? And so I'm going to think about it. I'm going to feel good about it, but I don't take action. It's just a fantasy. It will never happen. I will never get any benefit from that, right? And so those are the 3 steps of a mind clearing process, Mark.
Understood. Thank you for that.
Okay.
We are operating from the body for a big part of that, as you've described. And so how does the deletion process work with the somatic aspect of the body?
Well, the body follow the mind. That's the easiest way that I can see. The master is the mind. Let me ask you a question in return, right? Do you think that your mind can create pain in your body?
Sure. Yes.
I agree. I treat people like this every day, literally. Do you think that the mind can create symptom in your body?
I'm sorry. Mind create what?
Symptoms,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
physical. Okay. Do you think that the mind can be a part of the inflammation in your body?
Yeah.
Because the mind it just define your reality. Let's see. I've got 2 points I want to make here to make sure that we can make more sense of what I've been asking, right? And so here's the thing. Let's say I'm swimming. I'm in a tropical island, which I've been, right, obviously, and I'm snorkeling and with a friend of mine, and we're having the time of our life. We look at the reef. We've got all those magnificent colors and different kind of fish. I mean, we are enjoying ourselves like, really good. And after we get carried away and we go a little bit far away and we don't realize that, we cannot see the bottom of the ocean, right? And for me, it's not a big deal. I used to be a competitive swimmer, by the way, and all that. So I'm like a fish in a water, right? But my friend, I didn't know she had some phobia, fear, negative programming in her mind, right? That when she doesn't see the bottom of the ocean, she freaks out. She's on a panic attack, right? She cannot help it, right? Because it's a program. Like, remember that little girl that's going to attract that person, and that's it. And so we are still in the same environment. I mean, there's only one thing that changes. We still have those beautiful things. I'm still experiencing, that awesomeness. Right? I'm still enjoying myself. What about my friend? Right? She experienced an experience totally different. She may drown, by the way, because of a panic attack, right? It may kill her, right? I mean, so that's what I'm saying. So our mind creates our reality. Lots of people are saying that, but that's a very easy to understand example that show you that, hey, depends, your programming. There's something that 1 minute you were good and the second minute, right, you are in panic mode, right?
Got it. But the question I asked you was actually more about the subconscious programming, because you said the mind is like 5 or maybe 10%. And then the subconscious mind is where a lot of these things sort of play out, a lot of these deeper programming things. So my question was really about how do you address the body mind, the embedded experience of the body that drives that part?
Got you. And so, how we get programmed, right? Let's start by this, right? So from age 0 to 7 years old, right, we are like sponges. We actually operate our brain with different brainwave, right? Some theta, some beta, And so we like what we see in the outside world, we think it's all true, it's all beneficial. So we assume things, right? We assume things. And if you assume things 1, 2 times, it becomes a program. And that program, again, go to the subconscious mind. It's kind of hidden, right, from your awareness. And some are, that some with psychology, you can say, I can see, like for me with the freedom things, right, I can see I've been programmed because my dad was like so controlling, right? And so I wanted the opposite, right? And so so during that age, from 0 to 7, and I should say from conception, because even in the womb of a mother, there's studies that have shown that the mother can actually interfere with the brain shaping of children, and vice versa. And vice versa. So, that can be, of course, if a mother go through something, that can infect the child, right? And so, but anyway, so this is one way. And after, like, there's another way. So this is more like long term, right? And so there's another way that is like in case of PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, right? Or syndrome, PTSD. So what happened? Let's see if I'm, let me give an example. If I'm in Iraq, which I've been there, but if I'm in Iraq, right, and I'm a U.S. military, and I pull the trigger and I kill my best friend by accident. So I came back home to the U.S. I've been diagnosed with PTSD, and I feel so guilty, ashamed, and all that it impact all my entire life, right? I've got nightmare, like, you know, when you see Rambo, waking up with night sweat and having the memory of what he did or what they did to him, right? And so PTSD is the same thing, right? And so the problem is it's like a part of ourself. I call that the past you. A part of me is still stuck in the past pulling that trigger. So what we need to do, we need to bring that memory back to the present in the conscious to make sure that it's gone. After that, he has been accepted, he has been processed, and he has been released, right? And so that's how was programming, right? But, you know, if you allow me, I want to add a little bit to that, if it's okay with you.
Oh, please. That's why we're here, is to receive you.
Here's the thing. When they do research study, right? So let's see, I'm going to a research study, which I probably would never do, but let's pretend I'm going to a research study. And I've got heartburn. And they say, Dr. Salas, if you take that pill, no more heartburn. I said, okay, yeah, I want to try this, right? So I take the pill, and yes, no more heartburn. I said, man, that stuff is really good, right? But after they tell me, hold on. The pill you take was not actually the pill we're selling. This is only a sugar pill. So what does it mean? It means my belief at the subconscious level, right? Conscious it can be also, right? But at the subconscious level, heal me. Because I believe that, you know, taking the pill will heal me. And so it did, right? So we call that the placebo effect. So they understand that, and actually, should I say, they brush it up as, oh, it's only the placebo effect. No, that's how we're supposed to heal. That's the best healing you can have in your life. All right? And after, there's something that is less known. It's called the nocebo effect. So what does it mean? It means, okay, same study, I take the pill and they tell me, oh, basically, Dr. Salas, you know, this pill may give you this kind of side effect, maybe a headache, right? I take the pill and I've got a headache. I say, damn, you were right. You know, this is, I can tell I've got a headache, right? But they told me, hold on, Dr. Salas, you never get the pill. You got the sugar pill. So the belief that potentially, you know, I can have a side effect, it will impact me negatively. And the nocebo effect is spread out like wildfire. The nocebo effect is created by the bad news media, right? It's created by all the things, all the fear they're putting on you to control you. That's what I believe, right? And so they're putting all that. So all the nocebo effect is much more spread out than the placebo effect. And so that's why you can be programmed all the time, you know, by, you know, the media, the social media, everything, you know, can program you. And this program can have devastating effect or very nice effect, because you've got two kinds of programming. You've got the kind of programming that is good for you, that is serving you, right? And so we call that empowering belief, right? It's kind of, when you've got a day, Mark and Greg, when you've got a day that, oh man, you are so productive, right? You have been doing all that. Like, it's like your mind is working for you instead of against you, right? Basically. And after you've got the other programming that it's kind of like not serving you, that program is not serving you any longer, right? And we call that limiting belief. And so it's kind of, you get this kind of day that you say, oh boy, you know, this is so unproductive. It's even counterproductive. I should have stayed in bed. Actually, I'm going back to bed, right? Because this is more than useless, right? And so it's when your mind is working against you, right? And so the one, you know, the program that are dictating your life are the limiting belief. You know, that's the one that's kind of like the nocebo effect. That's the one that you want out of your life, because life is not, we are not meant to, you know, we have been told, oh, you have to work hard and play hard. No, says who? People who want you to work like crazy, right? No, life doesn't have to be difficult. You know, life can be easy. Life can be loving. Life can be, you know,
gentle.
Can be it. Yes, can be it for you.
Oh, thinking about what you shared about your father, and as I understand it, as you shared earlier in our hanging out together, he got sick and was vomiting every day. And if I'm recalling correctly from the video I saw, he attempted to take his life. And you received a call from your mother saying your father's in the hospital. And your father said to you, "I know I made a mistake." Am I correct in?
Yeah, he's not in those words. Yeah, I did something stupid, he said.
Okay. And what I'm interested in, and with what you have been sharing, there was an element of self, like your father's belief had him just nosediving towards taking his own life, a hopelessness. And there was no turning from it, even though I'm sure he was aware on some level this course is not a good course to be on. And yet still he went to an inevitable end in his case of attempting to take his life. And I guess that what I'm wondering is, in your experience, this that you're talking about, this mind clearing process that you've created, have you seen it powerful enough to really turn the course of such a strength in an individual's belief?
Yeah. I have a patient that I treat right now. She contacted me. I used to see her like maybe a decade ago. And she contacted me because she has been very sick for 30 years, something like that, and cannot work, right? And so the partner has been going to is working somewhere differently for a year and a half, and she knows she's having an affair and all that. And so she was really, and I told her, she never told me that she was suicidal, but I told her when after she got better, I said, "Don't you think you were suicidal?" She said, "Oh yeah, totally." Because I could feel the desperation, right? It's when people are desperate, because after you become tunnel vision, or what I call closed-minded, right? So if you've got those programming that are so powerful, that make you closed-minded. What closed-minded is, if it means you've got a challenge of a problem and you don't see any solution, or see only one limited solution. So when you do mind clearing of a system, what happens is start to open your mind, right? So it means for one challenge, one problem, instead of seeing one or two possibility or zero, boom, you can start to see more. And since we are healing also traumas, we don't talk about trauma that can shut down your heart. So when we do that, we can open your heart, start to open like a flower. And why is it so important? Because the problem of the world right now is like we're too much in our heads, right? My dad was too much in our head. The trauma that he had earlier age shut down his heart. And so we make our decision and what we want in life according to our analytical mind, which is only, by the way, as you know, 5 or 10% of our mind, right? And so try to resolve that. You can do therapy and things like that. Again, that's going to help potentially only 5 or 10% of your mind, because the cause of the problem, remember, number one, you need to find out what the cause of the problem. It's located somewhere else. So at best, it's a Band-Aid. And that's the truth. It's like I love Carl Jung, right? Because he was really on it, right? And he understood a thing or two compared to Freud and all those people. I really admire him because he was a pioneer for that. And he understood that the subconscious mind is the key of your healing. So when you can reprogram that, after you open your mind, right, and you open your heart, because all our decisions are made in our head, right? We're too much in our head. You want some stat? 80% of our thoughts are negative. 95% of our thoughts are the same than the day before. So we're like the hamster in the spinning wheel, right? Mm-hmm. 40 to 60,000 for the day. That's crazy. We have no peace of mind, because we have been taught since we are young or conditioned that we have to use our problem-solving capacity. But a problem is never positive, right? Problem is a problem, right? So when you resolve one problem, Greg, after there's another problem to be resolved. And that's why, and with those limiting belief that we collect, that's why our mind is so negative. So when we start to open the mind, after we open the heart and after we open our will, right? I call that the head, the heart, and the hara. Remember that book? The hara, that means gut, right? That's the gut. That's what we make our decision, right? And that's how we take action, I'm sorry. And that's our behavior. Go ahead.
All right. So your son is 8 and
Yes.
you came. So earlier you were telling the story if a young girl was raised by a father who beat the mom, et cetera, et cetera. You were raised by a very controlling father. So one could believe there could be a propensity of you wanting to be a controlling father. Have you brought consciousness to changing that and being more open of heart as a father?
Heck yes, of course. I treated myself. Yes. In case of, you never know, right? Like, although my sister, I've got a sister, guess what? She's the sick one, right? She's the one that now in semi-disability, right? And she followed the path of my father more, right? You see what I mean? And I'm the one who follow more my mother, right? In a way that I've got a strong constitution and all that. But yes, I had to do that, of course. You just want to, because you have been bathed into those energy, right? So they can obviously affect you and program you. And so it's very important. And it's not about judging anybody, that's why he's best. With all those limiting beliefs he had, right? So it's not our fault, right? But I have to say, when you know that this can be healed, like mind clearing and some other modalities, that's your responsibility to take action and do something about it.
Yeah, amen.
Like one of the big actions is going to mindclearing.com and setting up an opportunity to talk to Dr. Alan Salas.
Yeah, and not even talk. I will say, true knowledge is experience. When you experience something, right? Why they do take people who have been recovery alcoholic to help people who are alcoholic? Because they do have the experience. And this can beat any knowledge that you can have as a PhD or whatever. It beats everything, right? And so that's the same thing. That's why, I recommend to give it a shot. And so the way it works, since, we're going that way, the way it works is like whatever is bothering you, right? It can be, remember we talk about the pain. So it can be a neck pain, right? I mean, low back pain, whatever. Pain, symptom, and inflammation. It's called the body clearing, right? It's more for the physical things that you experience. The goal and success clearing, it's about you have to reach your goal, right? And so, again, when we set up goals, you use only 5 or 10% of your mind. So let's bring that subconscious mind to the party. And I created that manifestation path or loop, or I'm not sure I'm calling it actually. But yes, so whatever. And sometimes you can have too much anxiety, you feel depressed, or you cannot sleep, whatever it is, right? So let's see if it's a negative emotion, right? Or why don't you guys give me something that you think people or you would like to be cleared of?
Oh, we want to clear whatever the limiting beliefs are that keep this podcast from becoming a wealthy endeavor.
All right. So it's about numbers, right?
Well,
it's about quality.
No, it is. We'll like
quality we've got.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But we would like the income.
You do. Yeah. And so you are point A, that's where you are now. And point B, that's where you want to be, right?
Yeah.
So the first thing to do, we want to make sure that we give you a treatment that there's no limiting belief in between, right? That can prevent you to reach that, right? And so we clear all that, we're good, right? But it's not enough. So after I will ask you, Mark, what you need to do, you need to let me know about one very simple step that you can check within a week, right? That it has been good for you or not good for you in order to go towards your path of having more viewers, right? What will it be?
Well, we've taken a few steps.
What
Give me
will
one.
it be?
Give me one. Okay. What
He's
will it be?
avoiding. Wait, don't let him get away with this. He's avoiding. Come on. Dr. Salas asked you for what would it be a step you could take this
To
week.
get
Can
more
make it up.
viewers.
Right.
Yeah, one very simple step.
Saying out loud that I want more viewers.
Okay. So you want to do affirmation, right? You want to do affirmation on that, right? So you do your affirmation for a week, and there's something that maybe work for you, and there's something that maybe doesn't work for you as well, right? And so the thing that doesn't work for you, that can impact your mind, right? And can make sure that and can create some doubt, right? And uncertainty, and can make you lose your focus, right? And say, oh, this stuff doesn't work, or blah, blah, which actually doesn't. I'm sorry. I mean, when you're mind clearing, you understand, right? And so anyway, so you do that. And so I will ask you, okay, what is it the thing during that process you didn't like? And the things during that process that you didn't like, I call that resistance. Right? So all the resistance you encounter. And so guess what? We're going to do mind clearing on those resistance. We're going to delete them. We're going to download, and we're going to create that, right? So what happened is going to raise your clarity. It's going to raise up your certainty. It's kind of like if the knowledge that you want to get is here, right? And lower down, that's where you are at, right? So when we do mind clearing on the resistance to take a step, and after we repeat another step, right? And so what happened, we are raising your level of awareness. You're raising your consciousness, right? And after, boom, you can resonate with the knowledge that's going to be a breakthrough for you in order to get that. Make sense? And so what's happening, we do that step-by-step process, right? So it makes, you can reach your goals so much. It's exponential, right? So much faster. And at the same time, you don't lose your motivation, right? You don't lose your certainty. Actually, you get more more motivation, more certainty. It's like it's more fluid. That's why I say it doesn't have to be difficult. It doesn't have to be. The less resistant you experience on things, the more you're going to last doing it, right? And want to improve, right? That's human nature. That's the way we are wired, right? If you've got too many blocks, if you've got too much resistance, people say, hold on, this is too much. It's too much, right? So I cannot do that.
Then there's the aligned action with the new thought. Is that correct?
Exactly. This is so important because the things why we are. Let me give you an example. I'm big on example because I think it helps people, right? And so let's say I'm saying, okay, you know what? Okay, guys, I'm going to start a diet, right? So my thought is I'm going to start a diet. And after I'm going to have some emotion coming in. I say, okay, hold on, Alan. Last time you start a diet, you lose a ton of weight, but you gain it back and more. You think I'm going to take action, or do you think my action is going to last? Heck no, because my thought and emotion are not aligned. So the mind clearing will go toward that emotion and will align it. Actually, when I call that electrified, I know it's kind of technical, but what happens when your thought, your emotion, your behavior and action are aligned, you are unstoppable. Unstoppable.
So let's take the example. I'm already taking some actions to create more listenerships for the podcast. What's another example for me that, or Greg and I, that would be like exponential in terms of alignment with that?
Well, because like we all have, when you take a goal, we all have a preconceived idea how we're going to do things, right? We say, oh, if I do that for you, affirmation, for him, maybe totally different, right? And so what happened, when you've got more clarity, you've got more focus, more certainty, what happened, you raise your vibration, like some people like to say it, right? When we do that, after you can course correct. Because every time you raise your level of consciousness, you've got access to new knowledge that you didn't have access before. And the knowledge will come like out of the blue, right? How do when I started it took me 3 years to create that mind clearing, and it's still a work in progress, and it will always be a work in progress. Now, am I satisfied with the result that I've got? Heck yes, of course. But the first time I started to do things out of the blue, I call that my insight, right? I started to do things and after I had some feedback from my patient, right? But the thing and the matter is, you just. Oh, I lost my track here.
We're talking about how you integrate the next aligned action. Like I've already done some action, and then we're growing the action by getting more higher vibration.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you. And so, I didn't know. I remember telling myself, I'm going to explain this. I'm going to explain what I'm doing, right? And so I started to treat myself, and so I will get more knowledge, and I will listen to YouTube. I will have this is coming to my life out of the blue, right? It's because you're attracting, the level of where you are, right? That's so true. And that's how I came up with all this. I think I do a pretty good job explaining what I do, right? But it was not like this to start with. Trust me. I was like, what the heck? How I'm going to explain that to everybody? And by treating myself, I raised my level of consciousness, and I got access. And trust me, we are so logical, right? But it's only 5 or 10% our mind. And what we're getting, all that invisible world is so much more powerful. Let's look at the podcast here, I can see you, I can hear you, and vice versa, right? So that makes it real for us because our senses can process that. But there's so many behind the scene, there's so many things that are invisible. All those waves by going from satellite and things like that make it happen. This is only the end result. So we have tendency, if I cannot sense this, with all our senses, if we cannot sense it, it doesn't exist. I mean, if I take my hand and I spread out widely, like I'm doing now, this is all the frequency of the universe. What we experience is not even a fingernail. Mm-hmm. And we think that this is it. This is all. This is it. What we perceive with our senses, this is the universe, and there's no more. It's crazy.
So in a sense, we take aligned action and we let go of expectation.
Yeah, but there's a technique to that. It's not a conscious technique, because in order to we establish the problem in the subconscious mind. In order to change something in the subconscious mind, you have to talk the same language with the subconscious mind. You see, I used to travel a lot, right? Obviously. And the most frustration I had is when there was a cool guy, right, I wanted to talk to, and I didn't speak the same language. So, of course, we do sign language, we do all that, but it's not the depth that we are having. Imagine in that podcast, we lost the audio, right? So I'm going to be like this. I'm going to write down some things to, you see what I mean? How far are we going to go? But in my field, that's what has been happening, guys. In my field, they don't speak the same language that the subconscious mind. So if you don't speak the same language, how can you reprogram it?
Well, I'm already speaking it on some level because that's how I'm built, right? But what's one thing that you could teach our audience today about how to be more in communication with their subconscious mind?
Yeah, it's more like a disconnection in a way, right? Because we're not aware, right? We're not aware what's going on, right? So, so you want some practical things, or what?
Yeah, how would we go from less connection to greater connection with our subconscious?
All right. So the first thing is awareness, right? You need to be aware. Like when you have to understand when there's a problem, it's coming from within you.
Yeah.
Right. That's the first thing, because otherwise we're not going anywhere, right? You're going to blame on your circumstances, right? I had lots of things. I divorced, I had my business went from thriving to failing. I got diagnosed with early stage of colon cancer.
Right. There's a million excuses.
Yes, I will have said, not even excuses, but understanding that where the root problem is, it's within ourselves. And the healing can be only coming from within. That's why we need to talk the same language with the subconscious mind. So some people, that's what they do, right? Obviously, we need to deal it. And so the way the mind clearing will do it, right? You need to visualize what's bothering you. Right, the worst, but you have to have to be in that picture. And after I will give you the technology to communicate with the subconscious mind, and we'll tweak it, we'll customize it to you, right, personally. And you're going to be the one who will send that to you in that picture, right? So I'm helping you, guiding you to use to give you the power, to empowering you to be able to use your subconscious mind power to heal yourself, transform yourself, and grow. Right? So that's the mind clearing.
Something that's occurring to me is you mentioned like you're divorced, you have colon cancer, and there is a change of mentality that instead of feeling like I'm the victim of these circumstances, I realize I mastered these circumstances. And it just occurred to me in a sense, just as a sailor, you have a map and you chart your course. You've created a way to chart one's course when realizing I've mastered the life I am living. You have brought a means of charting a course to the life I now want to live.
Yeah, because that's so true. What do you want to create in your life, right? And those are real questions. They're talking about what's my purpose, what I think. I would say, okay, first of all, you need to establish what is a real purpose. Because if you're telling me making $5 million a year is a purpose, I will ask why. We go and dig more.
Right.
And after there's some technique that are even more efficient in which you can go and transcend that short circuit, that conscious mind, and you can go to higher power and get the information there. What is your real purpose, right, in life, right? So you may have some thing that you desire in your conscious mind, but you want to check that, bring that to another higher level, right? Kind of shamanic things, right? You want to go to a higher level and see what it is really, right? So first of all, you need to establish what is a real purpose, right? And after the problem, like with things, when we want to achieve something, it starts from a lack. I mean, that's why it starts, right? From a lack. Let's see if I want to help people. Well, I'm not helping enough people, right? That can be seen that way. So you want to make sure that where you are at, you fully accept it. That's so important, right? You want to accept that, right? And it's a part of some programming that, actually I created lately that has been really a breakthrough. And so you definitely want to accept where you are, right? And after you can move on. If you're still in conflict with yourself or where you are, which more than likely it is, right? Because already start with a lack or something that you didn't get there, right? You are not there yet, right? And so you want to make sure that you accept where you are, you're cool with that, right? Okay, like that to give you good foundation. So to answer to your, Greg, to finish up with you, the victimhood is so important. Right? Because victimhood, I think the most amazing question is why. The least amazing question is why me? You see what I mean?
Yeah, that makes total sense.
Just one word changes, and victimhood is why me, right? So you're going to blame. So you sell yourself short because basically, my little me cannot do anything, right? Because I've told I'm 5 or 10% of mine, right? So I'm not empowered, right? What can I do? How can I change the world? Of course I cannot because I'm only me. That's not true. Because the only way you can change the world is by changing yourself, right? You want to be the change that you want to see in the world. That's my best thing, right? Because that's really what it means, right? So we have been told, you cannot do anything and you're little, that's not true. That's not true at all. And what I want to say to broad up that conversation about that is that let's pretend like, the sun, just picture a sun, guys, right? And the sun is the divine, is awareness, is God, whatever you want to call it, depends on your belief, it doesn't really matter. And after, boom, there's a spark and that creates your spirit. Right? And all that is what it's called non-duality. It means some people will say it's pure love. Some people it's what has been and will ever be and whatever you want to call it. And after you've got the sky, and after you got us as physical beings, right? Some people, the sky is so cloudy, they say there's no sun, doesn't exist, never felt it, never saw it, right? And so what those clouds are made of are limiting beliefs. And so when you start to get rid of some limiting belief, after you can get a glimpse on the sun, and you can feel the warmth from the sun, right? And you get rid more and more of limiting belief, right? And you get a better connection with your spirit. And after you come to a point that you get the awareness, you get the awakening that you're not only 5 or 10%, flesh and bone, living whatever you live, right? You much more. You're a spirit living a physical experience. And when you come to that awareness, some people call that awakening, whatever, you cannot see the world the same. You just totally change, and you understand that you are so much more powerful. If I have to tell your audience, we have been told we are so little, no, you are so powerful. We have no idea. We are conceived this way to be powerful. And after we get disconnected, we've got program, limiting belief. Look at even a baby, which has, I'm talking about conception, but if you take the birth, the baby is like, there's no analytical mind, right? And he's like this, and that's why they are so attractive, right? They're just somewhere else, like we think, right? Because they are still in that inner world, right? Yeah. And a tiny bit in the outer world, right? And so, we are so much more powerful than you given credit. And the mind clearing show that, because you are the one who are doing the work. You are using your own, the picture that you visualize, it's your picture, it's not mine. Who am I to tell you what to visualize? Because that's your programming, you see what I mean? So it's really empowering you to heal yourself. You just need some guidance, just need the technology and things like that. That's why this technique can be taught to anybody. Right?
So I want to ask you a very personal question, and you don't necessarily have to answer it. But the idea around awakening and the practices that bring you there, you've articulated quite a bit of insight and vision that tells us you've experienced this in your life. It's not just a thought. It's not just a sort of a book thing. It's something that you actually have in.
Correct.
And my question is, has meditation and the search for freedom been the thing that got you there, or did psychedelics somehow influence this awakening for you?
Okay, so I remember when I was like a teenager, things like that, I was fascinated by with lama, that you kid who could do some amazing things, right? So I was reading book about that. So that's the book part, right? I said, oh man, what are they doing? That's crazy, right? I mean, how can human being do that? Where this so-called power or abilities are coming from, right? So I had always that in my mind. And after, when I had that insight, I literally saw myself, helping people. I really did. And so that was the foundation for me of, having a strong purpose. I mean, a lifetime purpose. There's no way I can do anything else. Some people ask me, what will you do if you don't do this? I say, I have no idea. I wanted to be a gym teacher before, so maybe I will have been that, but it sounds like so foreign now, right? And so that's for that. And after, so the COVID went, right? And with COVID, I had that, like you call that, awakening, because I knew, I'm not stupid. I knew that, they were doing so many things just to kill us, to put toxins in the food everywhere. I mean, I was saying that, but with the COVID, that took like an universal proportion for me, right? He just put it there, and I said, okay, hold on, now this is going too far, right? And so then I started to, be awakened to so many things. I realized that the life that we've been told it's not actually at all. And so started to do that. And I remember that episode of Joe Rogan, right, on DMT. And seeing that, I said, I was doing meditation for decades, I said, well, let's give it a shot. I did that once. And I went to a place that, what I say, basically they took my fear of death. I have no fear of death now anymore. Actually, I went to the other side. I remember when I had that experience, my wife, actual wife now, Reagan, I asked her to hold my hand because I was breathing like I I was dying. He cleaned my mind, right? And so to hold my hand, which I realize how important it is for assist when people assist to when people are dying, right? And so I did that, and after I went to the other side, right, and I look and I laugh. I laugh at death. And that's the best way. I laugh at my death, right? And my wife was not holding my hand at that time. And so after that experience, the mind clearing came.
Got it. So there's this thing about fear and love, this relationship where when we are able to dissolve our fear, then love remains. Insight, awakening, fearlessness, right? Not fearing death, and then freedom is the result. Is that? Would you agree with that?
Well, I will say to maybe confuse more people a little bit.
Okay.
So you've got the line, right? And at the both extreme, you got fear and love. But it's still the same line. We call that the polarity, right? And so it's still the same line, right? And so you've got less fear, you go more towards love, right? That's the way it is, right? Because some people ask, what is the opposite of love? Many is going to say fear. I said, no. It's the opposite of love is like you don't even care about that person. You just ignore that person. Okay. You see what I mean? To me, that's the opposite of love, which are actually the opposite of fear too, right? It just doesn't.
You ignore what it is you're afraid of.
Yeah. Or it's total indifference. It just
that's it. That's the word I was looking for. Thank you, Greg. Indifference. Yeah, and so.
So it's not love and fear; it's love and indifference, or fear and indifference. Understood.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, and so that's the low polarity, right? And so and after, can you remind me your question?
Well, the question was really like, what was led you to awakening, and then how do people find this freedom through the dissolving of their fear, their relationship with fear, which is kind of what you described in your DMT experience, right?
Yeah.
And you begin to laugh at death.
Some people, they say that you need to die in this life in order to be free. And I will believe that. I mean, I experience it actually, and now who cares? You know, I've got a mission. No matter what, if I died, I died. Okay, so not big deal. Of course, you don't want to suffer. That's human things, right?
Yeah.
But I'm like 63 years old, right? And you know, I've got stuff to do. You know, this needs to be spread out and all that. So, but if somebody needs to take over, so be it. It doesn't matter. I will have done my part. Right.
Yeah. So one of the things you can do, if not you personally, Dr. Salas, but everyone who's listening, is if you're not sure what your purpose is, you can at least hold someone's hand.
Yeah.
You never know.
I like that.
So we
you
have
never know what can happen.
We have one question that we like to ask all our guests. And before we ask that, want to just know, like, how can people get in contact with you? What's a great way for people to discover more about you?
Yeah, just to go to my website. It's called themindclearing.com. There's a ton of information there. And again, just give it a shot. What do you have to lose, really? I mean, you will get a treatment, because this treatment, since you are doing the healing, can be online, right? I mean, I'm just here to guide you, right? So it can be via Zoom or whatever means you want to use, Meetup or things like that. And it takes an hour. And again, I didn't finish that, but you tell me, like, how this is bothering you, 1 to 10. Let's see if it's a 9. At the end of the session, it should be 0 or 1, right? And after, I will tell you, okay, now you need to take that action. Remember, it's very important. You need to take that action and see how it goes, right? To get exposed, you know, see, if you've got more triggers, it's more resistance, and we treat the resistance. For example, for pain, 70 to 80% of the people, the pain is gone, first visit, right? And after, I told them, so now you're going to monitor yourself until we see, because I like to do 2 treatments on that if it's necessary. And after, you're going to tell me, you know, if the pain so-called came back. It's not it didn't come back. It's like another trigger. And so what you do, you write down your circumstances. Oh, my neck pain come back when I spend 2 hours on my computer, right? My neck pain come back, I get upset on my spouse because of this, right? And so we'll treat that the resistance. And again, 80% of the people will, within 2 visits, the pain is gone and doesn't come back. But that's when actually I knew I was under something, because out there, nobody talk about getting rid of pain by reprogramming your mind. Nobody. I don't know anybody, right? And also doing the goal and success clearing and all that. Oh yeah, you're gonna do that. You're gonna resolve problem, which is true. But when you start to touch or really the things that, hey, that's serious, because pain, you cannot argue with that. It's there, it's not there, right? It may be subjective, but it's there, it's not there for that person. And when it just goes away, they are like, what the heck? And they ask me again, can you explain me again what we're doing?
Well, I had experience with this when a friend of mine and my fellow bandmate, a guy named Michael, went to the dentist, and he says, I don't do any pain modification when I'm at the dentist because pain is all in my mind. And I was like, whoa. Like, this guy goes to a root canal and it's just all in your mind. All right.
Yeah,
well,
but pain is real too, right? I mean, okay, so you go to Mind Clearing, and if they come for your from your podcast, right, they will get 20% off over one treatment, right? And if you want to learn it, right, if you are a coach or health professional, right, and you want to add something what you're doing, like when you hit a wall with your client, boom, you do Mind Clearing and promise that door will open, right? And also if you are a layperson, right? You don't have to have PhD on nothing, on relationship. You don't have to have a PhD on health or PhD on prosperity, right? You can learn it from yourself, right? And I will teach that for sure. Of course, that's what I do, and that's why I want to have a domino effect. I want this to be spread out, because, I believe we are a turning point in the world now, and there's we're on a crossroad in a way. Either we go to the right or to the left, right? And either we go with technocracy, we go also with, transhumanism. So believe it that we're not good enough and we need to have some support coming from the outside with all the risk that we can have with AI controlling us, right?
Oh, Lord.
And that's real, that they're pushing AI like crazy. And so either you believe that, and some will, of course, and that's their choice, right? And so, or now there's technology that make you connect more to your spirit, because AI can do wonderful things, right? But AI cannot create. They cannot. We as human beings, we are connected to something so much higher.
AI is asking me to have you retract that statement, sir.
Let's not go down the AI bubble. Just for those of you who are interested, we are going to have another speaker that's going to be talking about technology. That we're going to be doing that later this week. So if you want to get into that, including you, Dr. Salas, tune in, because we're going to have another expert on this site. But I need to wrap up for time constraints. I have something else I need to do, which is go pee. And but first, I do want to ask you this question, and we take this question really seriously. It really means a lot to us. So we don't ask it out of flippancy. It's actually, we're sincere. And so from my heart to your heart, the question is Eminem or Foo Fighters?
What's that? Yeah, I'm from another culture.
Oh, you've been here over 30 years. That's not a
Foo Fighters. No, man, I don't need junk. I'm sorry. M&M's like the candy?
No. It's an American musician who uses lyrics in the form of spoken word.
Yeah, I know Eminem, the white guy.
The Foo Fighters are a rock and roll band.
And they are what?
A rock and roll band.
That will be the equivalent on who that I could know better.
Okay.
Wait, I don't know that band.
Okay.
What kind of music do you listen to? And I know
I'm very eclectic. Yeah.
Gypsy Kings.
Yeah, for sure. But I don't know. What I will say probably the rock band.
All right, Foo Fighters. Thank you for your time, Dr. Salas.
No problem.
And really glad to connect with you, and wish you the very best for you and your family.
Sure. Thank you so much. And again, guys, this is such an important information, as you know, that's why I'm here, right? And so, it has to be spread out. That's it. That's what I have to say.
We will do our part.
I appreciate you guys, and thank you so much. And I really enjoyed that podcast, I have to say. Thank you.
Recording stopped.